Our company is 30 people strong now. We've been going for about 7 years. We've done over 300 projects. And those projects are remanufacturing furniture for offices. And so we have a design function as well that help clients to design a beautiful office full of circular economy furniture. For us, the circular economy is all about resource efficiency. So we started our thinking about the circular economy when we realised the enormous amount of waste that was occurring, and as well the huge amount of greenhouse gas emissions involved in furniture. So typically the 5-year cycle of a tenancy of an organisation within a space involves buying all new furniture at the start, and new is probably the wrong word, let's call it furniture from virgin resources, and then at the end of that tenancy they throw that all away and then again buy furniture from virgin resources. That means that there's a huge amount of product out there that's much of it very good quality, that's going to landfill and recycling. We thought there was a much better way to do things. Our journey into the circular economy started really right from the foundational principles. So we've been a big fan of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and the circular economy approach. And so when we started the business, we said, let's build a business that's based on those principles right from the ground up. Because it's very difficult to change direction once you've got a production system or a market. So we said we're going to build from the ground up. So we included, right from the start, used furniture as a core part of our business. We've then expanded, for instance, into waste materials that we build into our furniture. So recycled yogurt pots, for instance. There's some wonderful plastic boards that are highly durable because plastic, PET is very durable. What we've been able to do is integrate those into our furniture as well. So we sort of thinking the circular economy both in the sort of circular reuse of furniture but also bringing in waste materials to offset materials that are otherwise from virgin resources and typically go to landfill, like desktops and tabletops. There are a number of challenges for anyone working in the circular economy. The first one we always find is one of perception. Because if you think about what we do, we're taking a product, giving it a second life, and no matter how much you describe the work that you do and the quality processes and the engineering that goes into those, there's always a concern in the buyer around the quality. So quality is a number one perception issue that's a barrier to anyone in the circular economy. And we sort of frame that around language. So you could say, well, would you rather a desk that was made that was new, or would you rather used? And of course everyone says new. But if you reframe that question of would you rather buy a desk that was high carbon made from virgin resources or a desk that was in the James Bond movie Spectre, everyone says I want the James Bond movie Spectre desk, right? And that's actually the same question but different language. So what we've done is we spent a lot of time educating customers about what remanufacturing is. We use a lot of visual images to show how beautiful our furniture is. We have showroom visits and all those sorts of things to show that physically. And then on top of that, obviously giving warranties and those sorts of things is really important in what we do. And of course, customers keep coming back because once they've seen the quality once, they come back. Other problems, I mean, there's a whole myriad of problems out there for anyone thinking about the circular economy. One of those, for instance, is investment. Now, I like to joke that if I had a good tech idea on a beer mat, I could raise £2 million tomorrow from the same old guys that funded Airbnb and those sorts of ideas. However, if you've got a really industry-leading circular economy idea, it's really difficult to raise money because there's not that established investor know-how on the subject or a pattern that they follow, which they do with tech companies. So that makes it more difficult to raise money, which is a bit of a pain, but ultimately we also see that investment markets are changing to embrace the whole new sector of the circular economy bit by bit. So that's emerging. The successes we've achieved that we're most proud of is when we hit a couple of years ago 1 million kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent that we'd have avoided by not using new furniture. We've actually offset that or replaced the use of that furniture and therefore avoided those embodied emissions. That was a really proud moment for us. We've got some wonderful clients, some really big corporate clients. You can see some of their logos on our website who keep coming back. And so we're really, really grateful to be engaged with them on an ongoing basis on their journey towards sustainability as they try to achieve net zero carbon in as quick a time as possible. So those are some of our proudest achievements, but frankly every project that we do where we walk away and see a beautiful office and the client loves it is just amazing. I'll give you another story around that. So for instance, when It was a particularly proud moment where we were just finishing off putting some items of furniture in place, and there were two new clients walked into the office who hadn't been part of the design process. They walked in and one said to the other, "Oh, Shirley, great news, we've avoided the used furniture. We dodged a bullet." And I thought to myself, well, that's hilarious, because absolutely everything around her had had a previous life in their own offices, right, where we'd been able to repowder coat, put a new top on, all sorts of things. So it didn't look the same, but they'd honestly thought that it was brand new furniture. And of course, that's an immensely proud moment for us, because that's the effect that we want to have in every office. We found that taking that circular approach gives a couple of different things. So first of all, there's a cost saving, right? And that's really great when you're saying to a customer, how would you like to save some money? Everybody wants to save money, right? So that's quite useful for the same product, in the same quality, et cetera, et cetera. The second thing is greenhouse gas emissions and waste. The circular economy enables, and there's all sorts of papers that were written in the 2000s showing that remanufacturing, for instance, reduces greenhouse gas emissions and waste by around 80%. Also biodiversity loss through extraction of raw resources, transport, energy, water, et cetera, right? Massive environmental dividend. The third aspect that we didn't really expect when we start, but we experimented and we found it worked really well, is social impact. So early on in our business, we challenged ourselves and said, how can we be even more sustainable, right? Environment tick, economic tick, what can we do about social? So we started working with some long-term unemployed people with disabilities, and that worked tremendously well. And we've gone on to do that for many projects since then. And what we found is that taking that really sustainable approach across every aspect of the triple bottom line, what that meant is that marketing is a whole lot easier for us. Because if a customer, they will always want to either save money, create social value, or reduce their environmental footprint, and often all three of those. So when we speak to them about what we do, and obviously we're transparent, we show all the numbers behind all of that, that builds trust, and it makes it a whole lot easier for us to win the work than someone coming along and saying, hey, I'm buying furniture out of China, it's a bit cheaper than normal, and actually not cheaper than ours. In a competitive situation, that gives us a really great advantage. Yeah, adoption of the circular economy, that's really tricky. What excites us a little bit, I suppose, is that just as we found a body of waste that was not really being commercialised particularly well, we're seeing lots of individual entrepreneurs taking on a particular stream of waste and really figuring out what to do with that and creating little businesses out of that will grow over time, no question. So in a way, there's no real barriers to getting out there and finding an opportunity. And if the waste material comes to you inexpensively enough, the economics are pretty good, actually. So that should encourage entrepreneurs to find those sorts of opportunities. However, there's still a whole raft of things that could make life easier for us. Things like easier fundraising, that would be great. I must take my hat off to the UK government. The Landfill Tax has been very helpful for us, because that means if you're a company who's throwing something away, it's actually more expensive to throw it away than to give it away. So in our instances, that leads to sort of weekly phone calls of, hey, Rype, we've just looked into throwing all our furniture to landfill. We've got 2 weeks before we have to be out of the office. It's going to be really expensive. If you back the van up, you can take whatever you like from that. And that's a great opportunity for us. And that wouldn't have happened unless the landfill tax had really ramped up over time. So a good bit of policy. So let's give credit to where it's due. When thinking about circular economy business models, I don't know. I mean, we've had a good run and we got lucky in our market timing. What we always found is that there's two ways to think about a circular model. One is that sort of big corporate approach where you do everything in a regular way that's consistent with a linear economy. So I'll give you an example. So if you're thinking about recycling coffee machines, for instance, and you call up T&T and say, hey, how much would it cost to get a coffee machine back from anywhere in the world? What's T&T going to say? They're going to say, okay, let's assume it's Alaska, worst case scenario. So that's an enormous cost, multiplied by number of coffee machines, and the economics just blow out really quickly. What we've found is that actually taking a really local approach to say, how can we improve those economics drastically, not just a little bit, but drastically, by staying hyper-local, for instance, and setting up very local facilities where we can almost personally collect all the materials from the local area. How can we reduce our costs by using labour that isn't as expensive as, for instance, modern lorry drivers who are charging very large amounts these days in terms of salaries. How can we find better ways of doing things? So I suppose the key thing that helped us a lot was just innovation. How can we change things to find better ways of doing things that are incredibly sensible, but also have social and environmental benefits, almost as a side effect sometimes?